Good afternoon, students. It's a great day to be great. Welcome back to U.S. History. This is video lesson 2 on Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. Today, we're continuing our intro into Manifest Destiny, but we'll also talk about Texas independence in today's video lesson. Again, trying to keep it brief, trying to keep it short, around 10 minutes. Hold me to that. All right, so didn't have this yesterday, but wanted to share with you the definition of manifest destiny. Uh, it is the belief that the United States had a God-given right to expand across the entire continent, and that this expansion was both justified due to our superior culture and the fact that it was inevitable that the United States would eventually take over all of North America. Um, Clear, it was obvious, and it was destined to happen according to the United States. So here's a map of the United States from 1816. So as you can see, the United States and its developed states and territories are mostly to the east of North America. We still have a lot of territory that we acquired in Louisiana Purchase that has not been explored and settled, and in the Oregon country. But to the south and southwest, Mexico and Spain controls all of this territory. Not Spain. Spain has been ousted. Now it is all Mexico. But by 1850, this map has changed quite a bit, and we'll see some of those contributions to that change in a moment. Texas has been added to the United States. Utah and New Mexico territories have been added. Oregon territory is becoming more developed. Still a lot of territory in Nebraska that is underdeveloped, but there are American settlers starting to occupy the Nebraska territory. We have more states again, but the East is most of what is civilized in the United States at this point, or settled in the United States at this point. By 1872, we have what looks to be the continental United States as we know it today in 2020. Dakota is still one piece, not north and south. But for the most part, these are 48 or 47 of the states that are the United States today. And this expansion was due to manifest destiny. Here's our American progress image again, a little clearer. But Lady Liberty spreading, industrialism spreading, the United States spreading liberty, spreading freedom to all the way across the North American continent. And that was manifest destiny. Okay, so 2 of the largest states that exist in the United States today were acquired during manifest destiny, acquired from Mexico. The first of which was California, and the second of which is Texas. So we're going to take a look at how Texas became independent and eventually became added to the United States. So 4 factors that encourage Texan independence from Mexico. So if you look at this map, you'll see the Republic of Texas. At one point was a part of Mexico, but they wanted to achieve its independence from Mexico because much of the land in Texas was uncharted, unclaimed. And most of Texas Mexicans lived closer to the American border and were attracted to the American Republic. So Texas settlers were culturally American and not Mexican, even though they fell in the border of Mexico. This is the first factor that contributes to Texan independence. So Mexico encouraged U.S. settlers to settle in Texas because it was far away from Mexico and they needed a way to secure this land. They became Mexican citizens. These American settlers were supposed to learn Spanish and convert to Catholicism, which was the religion of Mexico. In essence, that's what they were supposed to do, but they never became Mexican. They kept speaking English, kept their language, and kept their American ways of life, which included slavery. This made the settlers identify more with the United States than they did with Mexico. The second reason, the second factor that contributed to Texan independence was the fact that Americans outnumbered the Tejanos. The Tejanos were Texas Mexicans. So Mexicans were never wanted to move to Texas. To them, Texas was a remote, undesirable region, meaning it was unlivable. So the native Tejanos were few in number and were outnumbered by the Americans 4-1 by 1834. Third factor was the slavery issue. Most of the American settlers in Mexico were from southern states, so they brought their slaves with them. But because slavery was illegal in Spain, slavery is also illegal in Mexico. So these settlers made their slaves sign contracts that made them indentured servants, which means that they were a step above slaves, meaning that they were eventually working for their freedom. But this is essentially slavery and everything but name. By the 1830s, Mexico was becoming more strict, and the U.S. settlers were worried that Mexico may take away their slaves, which they were referring to as servants. The last issue or the last factor that contributes to Texas independence are its economic ties, the way that Texans were making money. The United States contributed greatly to Texas making its money. Texas was separated from Mexico by a large desert, and there were little roads to make travel from Texas to Mexico very feasible. It was far easier for Texans to get their goods from the United States because the United States did extend that far west and that far south. Port cities like New Orleans were able to contribute to Texan goods. Texas produced a lot of cotton, like many other southern territories at this time, and its economic ties with the United States quickened its departure from Mexico. So why did it just make sense that Texas, full of former America, started to rumble for their own independence? Well, it's like we just talked about. They were culturally more aligned with the United States than they were with Mexico. They had economic ties, which, when money's involved, it's easy to get everything else to move. As you can see with this quarantine that we're in. Here's a map of Texas. And that'd be it. So that was just a brief dive into Texan independence. But if you want to read a little bit more up on it and how it contributed to Manifest Destiny, then you can also take a look in the textbook, and I'll show you how to access the textbook right now. So if you go into Clever, you log into your Clever, and you find the McGraw-Hill. Find the McGraw-Hill app. Looks like this. Then you can access the textbook. You see Thomas Jefferson on the front of our red textbook. Scroll down, find chapter 13 on Manifest Destiny. Then you'll go to section 2 or lesson 2, statehood for Florida and Texas. Click go. You got to go all the way to page 3 before it starts talking about Texas, but you can read up on how Texas gained their independence and became a part of the United States. That's it. If you have any questions on your activities, if you have any questions on Texas independence, send them to me on Edsby, and we'll see you tomorrow.